In the year 2432, the Galactic Coalition's annual assembly, held on the sprawling orbital platform over Nevis Prime, was abuzz with the latest military innovations from across the universe. However, when Earth presented its newest military initiative, the laughter was near unanimous. They called it Tiny Army, a brigade of human soldiers, each miniaturized to just a few inches tall, thanks to groundbreaking advancements in size reduction technology. To the alien delegates used to grand displays of power and might, this seemed more a novelty than a credible force. Commander Vivian Holt, architect of Tiny Army, stood stoic amid the chuckles and sneering comments. Her soldiers, equipped with microscale versions of high-tech weaponry and AI-enhanced combat suits, were designed for stealth and precision. She understood that their diminutive size was their greatest asset, allowing them unparalleled access to enemy territories and systems, virtually undetected. As the mockery continued, General Tarkus of the Javarians, a race known for their massive war machines, boomed a challenge from across the hall. Perhaps Earth would like to demonstrate the capability of these toys in a real combat scenario. He joked, to more laughter. Unfazed, Holt accepted. We will demonstrate not just the capability but the superiority of our approach, she replied, her voice calm but piercing. The laughter slowly died down as the assembly realized her seriousness. The coalition, though skeptical, was intrigued. They agreed to a demonstration on the training grounds of Zeta XJ5, a planet known for its harsh terrain and challenging conditions. It was an environment where size could be a disadvantage, with frequent sandstorms and a landscape littered with razor-sharp rocks. Perfect for Tiny Army's first real test in front of the galaxy's toughest critics. As Holt prepared her troops for deployment, she focused on the strategic advantages of their size. They could maneuver unseen, access the inner workings of large machinery and fortifications, and execute missions with a precision no large unit could match. Each soldier was trained in multiple forms of combat, from hacking and sabotage to traditional skirmishes, making them versatile and deadly. Unknown to the Coalition, Earth's military had developed a new form of propulsion for their micro-units, allowing rapid deployment from orbit directly into the combat zone. This would be revealed at the demonstration, intended not just to silence their doubters, but to reshape the Coalition's understanding of military power. As Tiny Army prepared to launch, Vivian Holt looked over her meticulously detailed operation plans. Success would not only prove her army's worth, but also position Earth as a leading tactical innovator in the Coalition. Failure was not an option she entertained. The universe was watching, and soon it would see the might of the tiny warriors of Earth. The proving grounds of Zeta XJ5 were notorious, a planet sculpted by nature into a perfect training and testing battlefield. As the leaders of the Galactic Coalition assembled in the observation tower, the arena below was a miniature replica of a complex battle environment, complete with rugged terrains, artificial shelters, and hidden traps. The skies were gray, heavy with impending sandstorms, conditions under which no ordinary soldier would fare well. Commander Vivian Holt's Tiny Army deployed from a stealth orbital dropship, their entry into the battlefield undetectable. The soldiers, each about 4 inches tall, parachuted into their designated zones using nanofiber gliders that doubled as cloaking devices. Their objective was clear: disable a series of automated defense systems and capture the central command post, all within the simulated enemy lines. The defenses were formidable: laser turrets, drone patrols, and sensor nets, all scaled to challenge both tiny and full-size soldiers. Sergeant Liam Webb, leader of the first squad, landed on the outer ridge of the training field. His unit's target was the network of laser turrets guarding the western flank. Moving quickly and silently, they used the rough terrain to their advantage, hiding behind small rocks that to them were like boulders. Using micro-explosives and hacking tools, they approached the first turret. Specialist Maya Jensen, the team's tech expert, connected her nanocomputer to the turret's control panel. Within seconds, she bypassed the security protocols and turned the turret against other defense systems, creating a domino effect that took down the entire network on their side. Meanwhile, Captain Marla Cruz led the second squad through a series of tunnels they had identified in pre-mission satellite images. These tunnels ran directly beneath the enemy's central command post. The squad planted seismic charges along structural weak points, calculated to collapse part of the facility without triggering full destruction, enough to create chaos and force the enemy out into the open. Back at the observation tower, The coalition's leaders watched in stunned silence as the tiny army, invisible to most sensors due to their size and stealth technology, systematically dismantled the enemy's defenses. They were forced to acknowledge the precision and effectiveness with which each objective was met. As the final charge was detonated by Captain Cruz's team, the central command post's walls cracked and crumbled, exposing its core. The tiny soldiers swarmed inside, securing the objective far more quickly and quietly than any had anticipated. The exercise concluded with the tiny army's complete control over the simulated battlefield. General Tarkus, who had mocked the initiative the most, stood speechless, his previous laughter replaced by a grudging respect. Commander Holt, addressing the assembly via the broadcast system, stated, "What we lack in size, we compensate with stealth, ingenuity, and precision. Our soldiers can infiltrate and neutralize targets with minimal collateral damage and unprecedented efficiency." The demonstration was a resounding success. It not only proved the viability of the tiny army, but also marked a shift in military tactics within the Galactic Coalition. The tiny army had shown that in the art of war, size was not strength, ingenuity was. Despite their successful demonstration on Zeta Reticuli 4, skepticism about tiny armies' practical effectiveness in real combat scenarios lingered within the Galactic Coalition. While many were impressed by their display, some leaders and military strategists doubted their capability against a live, unpredictable enemy. The belief persisted that the demonstration was too controlled, too sterile to truly test the soldiers' mettle in the chaos of actual warfare. Meanwhile, tensions escalated as a rogue faction of the Scarvians, a militant race known for their territorial aggression, launched a series of unprovoked attacks on remote coalition outposts. These were heavily fortified, technologically advanced sites that had withstood numerous sieges, yet now faced critical threat levels. The coalition, desperate to protect these key assets, debated the best course of action. In a high-stakes meeting of the coalition's defense committee, Commander Vivian Holt proposed deploying tiny army to intercept and neutralize the Scarvian threat. Her suggestion was met with mixed reactions. Admiral Raxer of the Draconids, a faction famous for their brute force approach, dismissed the idea outright. "We need a show of strength, not a shadow play of miniatures," he argued. However, with the recent memory of their tactical success still fresh, Holt managed to secure a reluctant approval. "Let us handle the Scarvians quietly and efficiently," she argued. "We can access their fortifications internally, disable their defenses from within, and cripple their operations without the cost of a full-blown battle." Tiny army was deployed under the cover of darkness to the Scarvian-occupied outpost on Asteroid XJ5. The plan was high risk: infiltrate the outpost, sabotage their primary weapon systems, and extract before their presence was detected. The tiny soldiers utilized micro-transport pods disguised as cosmic debris to land undetected on the asteroid's surface. Sergeant Liam Webb led his squad through the jagged, rocky terrain of the asteroid. The Scarvians had not considered the possibility of an attack from such small assailants, focusing their security on more conventional threats. This oversight allowed Webb and his team to enter the outpost through its waste disposal system, bypassing the main security checkpoints. Inside, the team split into two groups. One headed to the energy core to plant an EMP device that would temporarily disable electronic operations. The other team, led by Specialist Maya Jensen, made their way to the central command room to intercept and download critical intelligence. The operation was nearly compromised when a routine security patrol stumbled upon the team near the energy core. A tense moment followed, with the tiny soldiers using their scaled-down but potent stun devices to incapacitate the Scarvian guards before they could raise an alarm. With the EMP device activated and critical data secured, Tiny Army executed their extraction plan just as the outpost systems began to fail. Confusion and disarray spread among the Scarvian forces, who were now effectively blind and weaponless. Back at the Coalition Command Center, the successful sabotage and intelligence retrieval from Asteroid XJ5 prompted a reluctant acknowledgement of Tiny Army's capabilities from previously skeptical leaders. Admiral Raxer, witnessing the effectiveness of such unconventional tactics, began to reconsider his stance. The success of Tiny Army on Asteroid XJ5 marked a pivotal moment in the Galactic Coalition's military strategy. But Commander Vivian Holt knew that one victory was not enough to cement their position. With the Scarvian threat still looming, the Coalition needed a decisive blow that would not only disrupt the enemy, but also demonstrate the strategic value of tiny army in full-scale conflict. The opportunity came when intelligence, gathered from the Scarvian outpost, revealed the location of the enemy's flagship during the upcoming Battle of Nebula Sector 4. This ship, the dreadnought Kragor, served as the command center for the Scarvian fleet and was heavily armored against all conventional attacks. However, its internal security was less prepared for infiltration by forces as small and as agile as Tiny Army. Operation Shadow Strike was conceived, a daring plan to infiltrate the dreadnought Kragor, disable its primary weapon systems, and sow chaos among the Scarvian fleet from within. The operation required precise timing and flawless execution, as the Coalition's fleet engaged the Scarvians to distract them from the real threat entering their flagship. Captain Marla Cruz and her elite team were chosen for the mission. They utilized micro-shuttles that mimicked space debris, allowing them to drift undetected towards the dreadnought. As the battle commenced outside, the shuttles attached to the ship's hull, and the soldiers used laser cutters to access the interior through maintenance hatches. Once inside, the team split into two groups. Marla led the first team towards the engine room to install a series of explosive charges that could be remotely detonated to cripple the ship's mobility. Meanwhile, Sergeant Liam Webb and the second team headed to the command center to inject a sophisticated virus into the ship's communication systems. Navigating the cramped, labyrinthine corridors of the dreadnought, the teams avoided detection through their stealth technology and the small size that allowed them to move through areas inaccessible to regular-sized soldiers. They encountered minimal resistance, mostly automated security drones, which they disabled using EMP grenades. Marla's team reached the engine room and placed the charges around critical structural points. At the same time, Liam's team faced a challenge as they attempted to breach the highly secured command center. Utilizing a combination of hacking skills and physical bypasses, they managed to install the virus, which began disrupting the Scarvian fleet's coordination by sending false signals and commands. With both objectives completed, the teams retraced their steps to exit the dreadnought. As they departed, Marla remotely detonated the charges. Massive explosions rocked the ship, causing chaos and confusion among the Scarvian crew. The virus in the command systems compounded the disarray, leaving the Scarvians unable to mount a coordinated defense. From the observation deck of the Coalition command ship, the leaders watched as the dreadnought Kragor faltered. The rest of the Coalition fleet seized the moment to intensify their assault, taking advantage of the Scarvians' weakened state. The battle soon turned in favor of the Coalition, with the Scarvians forced into a retreat. Operation Shadow Strike was hailed as a turning point in the war. Commander Holt received commendations for her strategic brilliance, and Tiny Army was no longer viewed as a mere novelty, but as a critical asset in galactic warfare. The success of the operation showcased not only the effectiveness of unconventional tactics, but also the importance of adaptability and innovation in facing seemingly insurmountable odds. After the resounding success of Operation Shadow Strike, the tide of the war began to shift significantly in favor of the Galactic Coalition. The Scarvians, disoriented and demoralized by the unexpected vulnerabilities revealed in their flagship's destruction, found themselves on the defensive across multiple fronts. This shift provided the Coalition not only a strategic advantage, but also a psychological one, as the momentum of the conflict had clearly changed. Commander Vivian Holt, now recognized as a master tactician, pushed to expand Tiny Army's roles within Coalition operations. The units were now deployed in various critical missions, from sabotage and intelligence gathering to targeted strikes against key enemy assets. Their successes had not only proven their worth, but had also inspired new tactics and technologies focused on agility and stealth across the Coalition forces. Admiral Raxor, once a vocal skeptic, now requested Tiny Army's assistance in planning a decisive strike against the main Scarvian production facilities, where they manufactured much of their war machinery. This operation, codenamed Deep Impact, aimed to cripple the Scarvian war effort permanently. Captain Marla Cruz led the mission, utilizing the latest advancements in miniature infiltration pods designed for deep penetration into heavily fortified installations. Her team was tasked with planting a series of quantum disruptors, which would effectively cease all production activities by interfering with the molecular structure of the assembly materials used by the Scarvians. As Marla's team silently infiltrated the production facility, hidden beneath the lunar surface of the Scarvian-controlled moon Dexartha 4, they encountered unexpected challenges. The Scarvians had enhanced their security protocols, likely as a response to previous breaches. The facility was laced with multispectral sensors that could detect changes in air composition, a potential hazard for any infiltrator. Using a combination of their own advanced cloaking devices and localized EMP pulses to temporarily disable the sensors, the team maneuvered through the labyrinth of manufacturing plants. They expertly placed the disruptors without alerting the Scarvian security forces, a testament to their exceptional training and the precision of their equipment. With the disruptors in place, Marla gave the signal to detonate them remotely. The resulting chaos was instantaneous. The production lines halted as the molecular structure of the materials began to disintegrate, rendering the machinery useless and the products defective. Simultaneously, Admiral Raxor's forces launched a frontal assault on the moon's external defenses, drawing attention away from the internal sabotage. By the time the Scarvians realized the extent of the infiltration, it was too late. Their ability to replenish their war resources was severely crippled. The success of Operation Deep Impact led to a series of surrenders by Scarvian commanders across various sectors. The coalition began to press their advantage, initiating peace negotiations with the promise of an end to hostilities if the Scarvians agreed to disarm and withdraw from contested territories. The ceasefire between the Galactic Coalition and the Scarvian forces marked a new era of peace and cooperation. As delegations from both sides convened to draft the formal peace treaty, the galaxy watched, reflecting on the unlikely heroes who had played a pivotal role in ending the conflict. Tiny Army, once the subject of ridicule, was now celebrated as a symbol of innovative warfare and strategic brilliance. At the grand peace celebration held on the central space station of the Coalition, leaders from various planets and species gathered. Commander Vivian Holt and her tiny army were honored guests, receiving commendations for their service. The most significant acknowledgement came from the Coalition's High Council, which awarded them the Star of Valor, the highest military honor given for courage and effectiveness in battle. During the ceremony, Admiral Raxor, who had become one of Tiny Army's staunchest supporters, delivered a speech that echoed through the assembly. We once doubted the might of these warriors due to their size, but they proved that the true measure of strength lies in the heart and mind. Today, we stand united, having learned that it is not the size of the soldier in the fight, but the size of the fight in the soldier that counts. Commander Holt, taking the stage, reflected on their journey. When we started, the galaxy laughed at us. They thought we were too small to make a difference, but we used our size to our advantage, turning what was perceived as a weakness into our greatest strength. We didn't just fight, we changed the way battles are fought. Following the official ceremonies, Tiny Army's tactics and strategies became a core curriculum at military academies across the Coalition. Commander Holt herself was invited to lecture at several high-profile strategic forums, sharing insights and lessons from their operations. The technology that allowed for the miniaturization of soldiers and equipment was further developed and adapted for various peacetime applications, including disaster relief and espionage. Moreover, the success of Tiny Army inspired a shift in military funding towards more research and development in unconventional warfare technologies. The Coalition established a new division dedicated to continuing the work that Holt and her team had begun, exploring other innovative forms of military strategy. As peace took hold, the soldiers of Tiny Army gradually returned to civilian life, their legacy cemented in history. Many of them joined the research teams that developed new technologies for both military and civilian use, driven by the same innovation and determination that had defined their service. With newfound respect and recognition, Tiny Army became one of the Coalition's most valued assets. Their missions expanded, and their tactics refined. Commander Vivian Holt continued to lead her troops with innovation and courage, proving time and again that in the vastness of space, the smallest soldiers could indeed cast the longest shadows. As peace negotiations began with the remnants of the Scarvian faction, the galaxy watched in awe. A tiny force once laughed at had proven essential in steering the course of a galactic conflict. Their legacy would be remembered not by the size of their soldiers, but by the magnitude of their deeds. Across the Coalition, Tiny Army's approach revolutionized military strategies. Their success had shown that precision and intelligence in planning could effectively replace sheer numbers and brute strength. This philosophy began to influence even the most traditional military powers within the Coalition, reshaping doctrines and training programs. Commander Holt often spoke of the lessons learned through their struggles and victories. Adaptability and innovation are not just tactical advantages, she would say at conferences and to her troops. They are survival skills for any civilization in a universe as diverse and challenging as ours. The influence of Tiny Army extended beyond military applications. Their techniques for stealth, surveillance, and rapid response were adapted for use in disaster response, planetary exploration, and even in medical fields where their small size could be used to perform non-invasive surgical procedures. Eventually, the stories of the Tiny Army's daring exploits became legendary, taught in schools and featured in media throughout the galaxy as examples of courage and ingenuity. Children and adults alike were inspired by the tales of these tiny but mighty warriors who had boldly faced the giants of the universe and emerged victorious. The end of their story was not merely a cessation of conflict, but a beginning of a new understanding in galactic relations. The Coalition, once a loose affiliation prone to internal disputes, found a new sense of unity and purpose. The Tiny Army's contributions were seen as a cornerstone of this new era of cooperation and peace. In the years that followed, the veterans of the Tiny Army were seen as heroes not only on their home planet but across the galaxy. Their legacy of bravery, innovation, and persistence in the face of overwhelming odds continued to inspire countless generations, proving that even the smallest among us can make a difference in the vast expanse of space. The Tiny Army had not only changed the course of a war, they had changed the very fabric of galactic society.